Hello, my name is Dr. Stephanie West. For the past 3 years, I have been working on this research project, Overcoming Student Apathy through Innovative Technology, Engagement, and Social Emotional Strategies. This is the presentation that I gave at 2 conferences this past year, and it just won me the Developmental Educational Endowment Award through Mesa Community College this past month. So I wanted to share this with you. So today's focus on this research project is the cause of student apathy following the COVID-19 emergency closures, innovative technologies practices, research-based engagement and social emotional strategies, and how to implement these practices in the college classroom. So after the pandemic, we saw several things going on with our students in the classrooms, especially in higher ed, and those students that were brand new out of high school into the college arena. First off, we saw a lot of apathy. They were not sure about their why. They weren't sure why they were there, didn't know if they wanted to be there. They were just there. Very low communication skills, very few of them couldn't work in groups. They had a hard time expressing themselves, were unable to take part in discussions. Isolation issues, we saw a lot of depression and anxieties being back out, those isolation issues. Very low confidence in their abilities. Low participation in class, in discussion groups, in completing assignments. Little or no study skills. Low engagement, they just couldn't get engaged into the content or even the classroom itself. And then a drop of enrollment across the universities and the community college levels. We've got a drop in retention. They would come for a few weeks and then drop off. And then odd student expectations. And when I say odd student expectations, it was more of the fact that they expected us just to pass them on. So for about 2 years of their high school their time in high school, for 2 years of that, they were in isolation. They were in front of their computers at home, very little accountability put upon them. They were usually all by themselves. Parents were working or they were working from home. And honestly, the parents didn't have the teaching skills that we do, that we go to college to do and do for years and years. I've been in education for 27 years, and so much of what I do is from things that I have done over time, have learned over time, and how to put those into play. So these students coming into us, they were used to being by themselves, used to not having any communication with others, not having to participate in any kind of discussions, face-to-face discussions. And very little accountability on whether or not they turned their work in. For so many of those in the high school levels, they just kept passing them on because they weren't sure what else to do at this point. So my research was a quantitative research. And here's my student population. So they were all from the fall courses. I teach Reading 100 at Mesa Community College. And this was in the fall of 2020, fall of 2021, and fall of 2022. It was at the exact same time of the day and very similar in demographics. And there was usually, but when I started, there was about between 20 and 24 students enrolled. So in the fall of 2020, we went back to school online. So, and in that spring semester before, everything stopped and we all went online. In the fall, MCC started up with what's called Live Online, and they would meet with me online. I would lecture to them. I would try to get them to engage with me, engage with them, with the students, but they were all at home. And very rarely could I get them to even post their video. They wouldn't open up their camera. I never saw their faces. Very little participation in the class, even the live online. And so these are their scores that they had. So the average score on assignments was 61%. The average score of assessments was 72%. They showed up to the online class 85% of the time, but my dropout rate was so high. 34% of that class dropped within the first 2 to 3 weeks. They just couldn't do it. They just weren't comfortable with it. I'm not sure why they dropped. Even when we reached out to find out why they dropped, it was just hard to figure out what was going on. So then, fall of 2021, we were back on campus. Everyone was back with me. But you can still see, even though there was a 92% on campus, and I was mainly doing what I had always done before in the college classes, but the assignment grades were still in the D area. The assessments were down in the D range. I did have a lower drop in that dropout rate. And so what I did after that semester, I was really, really shocked. I just really thought that once we were all back on campus, they would start to participate. And so I had to redo what I did. And so basically I would lecture and I have few group discussions, whole group discussions, some hands-on, not a whole lot. And so I started to revamp my my class and my instructional practices. And so by the time I started to readjust everything, this is where my scores went. So I started on fall 2022, back on campus, same type of kids, same time of day, Mondays and Wednesdays, same type of day, same group of kids, same demographics. Now my assignment grades went up. Remember, this is reading 100. So these are struggling readers, and they just need to know how I'm teaching them how to read their textbooks, how to comprehend their textbooks, and then apply what they're reading into their lectures or their notes and whatnot. So as you can see, the assignments came up into the 87 percentile. Assessments were up to 89%. The attendance was 88%, and my dropout rate was 1%. And the reason that student dropped was she did not get her financial aid. She did not get her funding. So really, it wasn't anything with the classroom. It was because of financial aid. So when you look at these differences in what I did in each semester, you can see that even though my attendance was high, my dropout rate and the learning rate was still low. Here, my attendance rate was good and even, and my dropout rate, again, was low. So there was a couple outliers. There's still the attendance rate issues. I mean, we still have attendance issues no matter where we go. MCC has a strict attendance policy, but I try to make sure that they understand if they need help, that I will be there for them. I have some kids, some students that just will not turn in homework no matter what I do. And then, of course, there's family issues. A lot of the kids have family issues. Some are coming back to college after being out of school for many years, and there's family issues that get in the way. And then the financial aid, you know, the cost of it. So these are my outlying factors that go into, that were shown in my research. So before the pandemic, this was the typical classroom agenda that I would have. I would review the class objectives. I created PowerPoints with visuals and videos in them. Students took notes in the way they were most comfortable with. I usually lectured the entire time, you know, because we only have them. My class time was an hour and 15 minutes, so much to cover. And I think at this level, we're so used to just kind of filling up with information and send them on their way. They're adults, right? They knew these things, but they also had 4 years of high school face-to-face with teachers. Now we've got these kids that don't know how to take notes, how to do anything on their own, how to communicate, what it takes to turn things in. Okay, so I asked questions, you know, before the pandemics, the students would reply, you know, they were pretty good at it. And then after the pandemic, it was like crickets. There was no response anywhere. And then I would close the lecture with an explanation of the homework and what to expect when they came back. Well, as you can see that in the live online, even in 2020, it wasn't working. Even when they came back, it still wasn't working. Okay, so what I had to do is really go back to my early teaching years and to find those engagement strategies that may work for these students. And so I went to the active learning style, the cycle, and this is through the ACU courses. And so what I found was in this cycle is the phase one of the cycle is concept exploration. Okay, so I would provide an exploratory activity and I would ask the students to think about the content. I would post videos and motivational things and anything that I was seeing that was lacking in the instruction in the students, that's what we would discuss. Once I have established a need to know concepts and we do that, then I would do exploratory activities, group activities, discussions, simulations, and I chunked everything up. Okay, and then the application phase is once they know it and can apply it, that's when they applied it to their homework. So much modeling went into this. I modeled everything that I wanted the students to know. And in reading, it was a lot of modeling. I had to model a lot of information, a lot of ways for the students to grasp those concepts, a lot of discussions, how to discuss, what was required in a discussion, what the roles were in discussions, and everything was modeled for them. Okay, so these are the changes I made. I would always start with an engagement activity, some type of motivational video. Now, the Reading 100 is struggling readers, okay? So they need to be told that they can do it. And so we talked about what motivates you, what can you do to if you're lost, how to communicate with their college professors, time management skills. I would do all of that. Or I would do a thought-provoking prompt with the lesson. Whatever I was studying that day, I would talk about how they could apply something, something that would just start to get their minds activating. Because a lot of times the kids would come in and they weren't even ready to be there. And so I had to teach them how to get their minds working. And then I would chunk or segment the information. So I'd have little mini lessons and then a group work and an activity. And then I would teach a little bit more and then another group work. The kids were always talking, trying to get the kids to talk. I set them up in groups as much as I could. And then I modeled everything. So I required them to write the notes, but I taught them the Cornell note-taking since my views at the big universities, most of them require Cornell notes. And so I would model that. I would teach them at the beginning of the course how to take Cornell notes, and then I would model that. So I would have them pull out a one subject notebook each time. I required them to have a one subject notebook that they could keep all of their notes for my class in that one place. I would give them, if I gave any handouts, I provided glue so they could glue those into their notes. So everything was there for them. And then as they were writing notes, I was modeling how to write those notes on the board. And every class period, all the way until the end of the semester, I was writing the same notes they were writing in their notebooks. So then they got used to what to put in and not be writing everything they were seeing nonstop. I also posted we used Canvas at MCC, and so I would post my PowerPoint lectures in Canvas. So if they felt like they missed something, they could go back and review the lecture notes, the PowerPoints, and they could add to their notes once they were at home. I would use engaging visuals, like this slide here, it pulls the students in, something to pull the students in. They were colorful. They were, had little cute things. I had even the moving images, And so they would be able to be engaged with what they were seeing. The students today are very visual. They watch a lot of TV. They love movies, video games, anything that pulls them in with the colors, anything bright really pulls them in. And then I would use relevant examples. Anything I did, I connected it to what their lives are. And so I came to know the culture within the classroom. I would take things from our area, current events. If we were discussing arguments, I would pull in things from local leaders, politics, questions, anything like that. Anything that was relevant to their lives here at MCC, then that's what I would do. I moved around the room a lot. It's so nice to have a clicker and I could move around, go to the kids, meet them where they were. And it gave me a good view on their faces. And then I really became good at reading the room, reading their faces, understanding the looks they were getting. And part of that is getting to know them and being in their realm. So if they were doing group projects or group discussions, I was roaming the room and being involved in those discussions. And so it became part of the class. So when I would come into their area at the beginning of the course, they would get a little freaked out. They do get a little freaked out, but the more I talked within their groups and participated in each group, the more they would rely on their questions to me when I approached their group. And I was able to contribute to their group and what they were talking about. And it also keeps the students accountable. The more I roam, the more accountable the students get, because when you get in their space and they're not doing what they're supposed to, boy, they sit up a little straighter too. I used a lot of technology. I like Kahoot, Slido, Peer Deck, Zoom. I would upload the lectures and the PowerPoints to our Canvas. And we also were very fortunate at the Dobson and Southern campus at FCC that we have the high flex option, and I will get to that. And then I would always make sure to stop my lesson. I have a good 5 to 7 minutes at the very end to answer any questions before I release them at the end. And that became really engaging. There were times that the students came up after and says, "Oh, thank you for explaining that. I didn't get it. I'm so glad you left time for that." So making sure the kids are clear on the expectations when they leave my class, not only when they're in my class, but when they leave the class on homework, is a really powerful tool. And then I maximize the student choices, okay, and their agency. So student agency is the ability to manage one's learning, which can have significant effects on academic achievement, such as a belief that knowledge can grow over time, understanding growth mindset, students who set mastery-oriented goals. The skills and behaviors associated with student agency have a positive influence on students and college career outcomes because they can direct their own learning and apply that knowledge to new settings. And so when you start to give them those agencies, grow that mindset, set goals with them, help them to set goals, and then have the belief that they can do it and that they will build over time, really, really gives that boost to their academic knowledge, their engagement in the material and what they do. So here's a few of the strategies that I do just beyond the lecture, so I didn't lecture a whole lot after this. I would put slides up, and a lot of time in my lectures, I would put, like you see here, with the stuff. So I didn't have to stand and read, but it was stuff they always did. I also, before we started a module, they had to complete a study guide. So then they got all the notes before coming into that first lecture in that module. But these were some of the engagement strategies that I used. I foster collaboration with group projects, group discussions, and then I would just facilitate those. They had to present. Many times they would have to present their findings when they had a group discussion, then they came up and presented. I use a lot of the post-it graphing paper, and I put it on the wall next to them, and they put their group information on there, and then they can share it. One time we got talking about jargon used, and a student, they had to come up with I can't remember what it was now. Anyway, they had to come up with something that was jargon that they had to use and that they heard, and positive or negative connotation. And they came up with bless their heart. You know, we all know what that means. And it was really cute. But they had a good time. And a lot of times when they're presenting, I will stand with the group as they present or stand near them, encourage them. And they do take turns presenting. They like to get to the point where they were presenting also. And it's a great workplace skill is having them present, because they need to be able to express their opinions to a crowd, to a group. And then I would include some games in there. I had a word part game that we did. I mean, it sounds silly, but you can do points, you can do competitions, debates, you know, all these things that you can do with the graphing paper or with Jeopardies, anything like that that you can bring in. I would pose a problem and how it was connected to our content area, and what would they do in that problem. So they had to be problem solvers. They brainstormed on different things to fill in gaps. We held a debate. Several times we held a debate. And when the students are given the exact criteria within their debate, boy, they go after it. It's interesting because a few of the debates that I did were ones that I figured they would more be on the supporter side. And so many times the students, even though they supported the argument, they really wanted to be on the opposition side just to get the whole picture. And it was interesting that they went against something that they already knew to be true. So it gives that higher level thinking, that evaluation, the synthesis, you know, all of that is so engaging to them. And then they remember what they had. And then the social emotional skills. And we talk about this so much in education today. We really need to be aware of the isolation issues and the mental health issues that we are facing. So first off, we have to create that safe place that they know when they walk into my class, I know who they are, I honor who they are, and this is a safe place. By their peers become who they associate with, who they discuss with. And so I teach them how to discuss. I teach them how to analyze an argument without fighting. I teach them how to debate without fighting. And it creates that space where they are able to build their confidence and their emotional and social skills in my classroom, because that's so important to their learning, especially since the pandemic, now that we're dealing with all the isolation issues. I do a lot of motivational videos, and we talk about those, like how to being better at time management, being better at standing out and standing up for your ideals, how to persevere in college and to continue to keep on going. And I try to show the students that they can do whatever their mindset, they can put their minds to, you know, that growth mindset. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. You just have to find the steps. And I help them find those steps. And I tell them, find their why in their life. What is their why? Why are they here? Once they find the why, it changes behaviors. It really changes behavior. When they know their why and the whole purpose behind being here in this world, in this situation, at this college, and where they want to go in the future, really puts them on a path for success. I model the behavior expected. I share stories of my background. I share stories of other people I know, other students I know, with their permission. And, you know, I model that. So if it's a safe place, then they know that I value their opinions, and I model that behavior. And then ultimately, I hold them accountable. I show them that their homework, their their assessments, getting things in, being there in class, being in attendance is so valuable and so very, very important. And all of that goes into play. I also provide resources around campus. You know, we have the food market, we have the counseling, academic and mental, and we have a tutoring center online and on campus. I teach those communication skills and time management skills so they're successful not only in college, but in the real world. And then I create classroom expectations as a class. You know, we come up with those so they know that they're a part of what is expected in the class, and their opinions of those expectations are right along with mine. Now, I do have, I've had a real privilege, the opportunity to have what's called a high flex classroom. Okay, so a hybrid high flex or high flex course format is an instructional approach that combines face-to-face and online learning. Each class session and learning activity is offered in person and synchronously online. Students can decide how they participate. Now, with these isolation issues, with the mental health issues, with the illnesses, you know, that people are really worried about coming to school if they have a sniffle, you know. And so I would offer the high flex option. And so my classrooms at MCC, the reading classrooms, do have the high flex, and it's a camera that sits in the corner. It follows me around the room. They can hear it. So they log in. I open up a WebEx line or a Zoom line for them. I share the presentation online for them, and they can follow along. The camera puts me up in the corner, and so they're able to see what I'm doing. So they still see the modeled information, the modeled behavior. They see when I'm writing notes on the board. Oh, they better be writing the notes. And they're able to also participate because I can do breakout rooms, and they go into one of the breakout rooms, and I have usually one student that's really good, one or two students that are really good on this, and they'll jump into the WebEx class link, and I will put those two people into the group, and so the table group has the person online with them also, so they're still able to participate even at home if they're not feeling good, if their anxiety is just too high that day. And it's really been able to bring a lot of people in. Now, I do get a lot of questions on whether they abuse it. And it's always different students. I hope that my classroom is welcoming enough that they will continue to return with me and back into class. And so I only have about 2 or 3 students each week that attend, maybe 2 to 3 students each week that attend through high flex. But it has improved their attendance. It has improved their academic learning. It has improved their homework, everything, when they are able to still view the class and still feel a part of it, even though they're at home. Now, this little camera here in the corner is what the high flex classroom corner camera looks like. And it sits in the corner and follows me around. Now, here's a link to this recording that I did of a high flex presentation. And you can view that at this YouTube station a little later. I'm not going to go into it now because I really don't like watching myself on camera. But that's a way you can see what it looks like when I have people join through what high flex. Now, there's so many benefits to high flex. For the students, they're able to attend when they're not feeling well. They're able to attend when they may be uncomfortable or have an illness that isolates them from others. For us as the professor and instructors, it raises that student achievement rates. It raises student retention numbers. It lowers attendance concerns, and we're able to meet the students where they are and ensure that they are still receiving that high quality instruction. Because otherwise they're just home all by themselves again. So my next steps in this is I really want to work on, for my online classes, because at Grand Canyon University, I do have some asynchronous classes that I would really like to create PowerPoint lectures for, possible recorded lectures for them, interactive discussions, maybe video discussion posts, interactive assignments such as recorded presentation, tables and FQA assignments, infographics, e-portfolios, online bulletin boards, and even mock meetings where they can experience these things on their own. So that is the end of my research at this point. Again, my name is Dr. Stephanie West, and I have 3 different emails, depending on which college you would like to come through. The bottom one is my personal email if you have specific questions. I am also open to bringing this to your school for a professional development presentation if this is something that you're interested in. These strategies also work very well with high school kids, which is part of my background. Again, I'm grateful for being here, and it's been a wonderful research project, and I've learned so much from it, and hopefully we'll be taking it on to the next level. Again, thank you for joining me, and I will hopefully see you again.